couldn't quite remember where, but he knew. He knew he'd met her before. The girl, too, stared at Junpei, similarly stunned. Her response suggested she'd seen him before as well. Without saying a word, Junpei walked slowly toward her. She didn't move. It was almost as though she was held in place by some sort of magic spell. As Junpei stepped onto her landing, the spell broke. No sooner had he set his foot down than the whole ship shook a second time. The quake caught the girl unprepared and she fell. Moving on instinct, Junpei leapt to catch her. Or so he thought. God damn it! Her face was far closer than it should have been, mere inches from his own. He was flat on his back, and she had landed squarely on top of him. The girl seemed as confused as he did, and her face suggested she still hadn't fully recovered from seeing him. For a moment that seemed to stretch for a very long time, they stared at one another. Are we gonna be like tonguing each other's eyes or something? The ship stopped shaking. Everything was quiet. Water could be heard from the bottom of the ship, lapping faintly at walls and ceilings, but eventually that faded as well. The silence was complete, a thick, muffling blanket. At last, the girl opened her mouth. Oh my gosh, is that you, Jumpy? Jumpy? Jumpy. Jumpy. Her words echoed through Junpei's head, and suddenly his memory returned. Akane? Oh yeah, it's Akane! Why hadn't he realized it before? The girl was Akane Kurashiki. She and Junpei had been friends in childhood. They'd gone to elementary school for 6 years. But what was she doing in the ship? Her soft eyes were only inches away from his own. He could feel the warmth of her face. Feelings he thought long forgotten began to work their way to the surface. He could feel his face heating up. At that moment, a speaker crackled to life, and a cold, eerie voice filled the room. Welcome aboard. I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart to this, my vessel. With the voice's invasion, the spell between Junpei and Akane was broken, and all hints of burgeoning romance instantly forgotten. Man, we're drowning in shit. I ain't got time to be dicking. They hurriedly untangled themselves from one another and struggled to their feet. The 7 companions had heard the voice as well, and many of their faces had gone pale. They looked around frantically, desperate to locate the source of the voice. At last they found it. A speaker set in the ceiling. I am Zero, the captain of this ship. I am also the person who invited you here. Invited? The voice was harsh, obscured occasionally by the crackle of static. But Junpei recognized it. How could he have forgotten it? It was the same voice he had heard from the man in the gas mask. Hey asshole! The hell is this? Come on out here. I want to get a look at you. What do you mean to do to us? I mean to have you participate in the game. Some of you, I know, are familiar with this game. The nonary game. It is a game where you put your life on the line. Nonary game? The hell's that? The voice continued, implacable. Rules of the nonary game can be found upon your persons. They are simple rules. Read them. Nonary game? Hey, there's something in my pocket. Check this out. Silver reached into his pocket and pulled out a small slip of paper. The rest of them reached into their own pockets and pulled out similar slips of paper. Junpei followed suit and dug into the pocket of his pants. He felt the telltale crumple of paper, slightly damp from his earlier ordeal. Hey, I got one too. Then it would seem Zero has been fit to grace us each with a letter. Would you mind terribly reading it to us, young man? His request had been delivered to Junpei, who, after a short moment of surprise, did as he was been asked. Okay, on this ship you will find a handful of doors emblazoned with numbers. We will call them the numbered doors. The doors in front of you are a pair of the same. The key to opening these doors are the numbered bracelets that each of you possess. Should you total the numbers on your numbered bracelets and find the digital root of that number is equal to the number of that door, the door will open. Only those who have opened a door may pass through. There are, however, limits. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door. All those who enter must leave, and all who enter must contribute. Bracelet. Junpei figured had to mean the bulky thing on his wrist. He glanced around. It looked like everyone else had one as well, and had come to much the same conclusion. The purpose of the game is simple. Leave the ship alive. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Junpei had reached the end of the letter. There was a long moment of silence, and then the speaker crackled to life once more. There is one last thing I must tell you. As you have no doubt surmised, the ship has begun to sink. On April 14th, 1912, the famous ocean liner Titanic crashed into an iceberg. After remaining afloat for 2 hours and 40 minutes, it sank beneath the waters of the North Atlantic. I will give you more time. 9 hours. That is the time you will be given to make your escape. The voice finished, and the speaker went silent. The sound of a bell tolling echoed through the hall. It came from the dance hall adjacent to the stairwell. It took those assembled on the stairs mere moments to trace the sound to an antique clock embedded in the wall. 7, 8, 9. The sound of the 9th bell faded away. The 10th never came. That meant the time was 9 o'clock. Most likely 9 in the evening. When Junpei had peered out the window of his cell, he'd seen nothing but blackness. It had to be nighttime. If that was the case, then they would need to escape by 6 a.m. the following day. Now is the time. Let our game begin. I wish you all the best of luck.
Motherfucker!
The speaker went silent and did not speak again.
Ain't this some bullshit?
Silver yelled at the speaker with language coarse enough to embarrass a sailor, but the rest of Junpei's companions were silent, deep in thought. Junpei too was consumed by his thoughts. There was a great deal he didn't understand. Who was Zero? What was the nonary game? Why had he chosen to make them part of it? Was he a criminal who took delight in playing with his victims? Or did he have some other purpose? But why had Junpei been chosen as part of this insane game? Why had any of them been chosen? But one question was foremost on his mind. Akane. They hadn't seen one another since elementary school. Why had she appeared now? Coincidence? No, it seemed impossible. There had to be a reason. He didn't know what it might be, but there had to be a reason. Very well. The lion's voice seemed oddly loud in silence. Standing around here won't do us any good. Best we get moving, don't you think? Get moving? Are you planning to open a numbered doors? Hey, wait! Don't tell me you're actually going to do what this Zero says. No, that's not what I mean. The lion shook his head, mildly annoyed. I'm saying let's find another way. After all, we haven't really examined this place yet. We
What?
The separate investigations finished. All 9 people returned to where they'd left one another. The result of all their work was nothing. They were completely sealed in. Their hard work had not gone complete to waste, however. They had learned a number of things as they scoured the parts of the ship they could reach. It seemed that they were confined to decks A through C. C deck was as far down as they would be able to go, however. The reason being that D deck was completely submerged. Strangely, however, the water had risen no higher than D deck. The flow seemed to have been stopped somehow, as evidenced by the surface of the water on D deck, which was as smooth as glass. The prince knelt down and gently drew his hand across it. Perhaps this Zero fellow has used some sort of remote control to seal a watertight door lower down. He said that our time limit was 9 hours. In other words, this water won't rise for 9 hours. And you're saying we won't sig till then? Well, that might be a little too optimistic. It's no point to wishful thinking. There were 3 metal doors on C deck. A single door stood off to the side with 2 more on the wall facing the central staircase. None of them had numbers or verification devices. They were, however, locked like the other doors. No matter how much they pushed and shoved, the doors refused to move. The mountain and the lion threw themselves against them a few times, but to no avail. The door in the back had a keyhole. Just above it was a strange mark in the shape of a circle surrounding a dot. There were 2 other doors on C deck as well, but it was clear they were elevators, as each had a button next to it with an upside down triangle. They tried pushing the button. No response. Apparently there was no power run to the elevators. To the left elevator doors was a card reader. The card reader had a strange mark on it. It looked like a lowercase h with a dash drawn across the upper stem of the H. Junpei stared at it for a while. This is the symbol of Saturn. It's an astrological symbol. And the mark on the other door. I think that was the sun symbol. They had seen the same symbols on A deck. There was a door on either side of the stairs. The one on the left had a keyhole with a similar symbol engraved on it. This is an Earth symbol. The horizontal line symbolizes the equator and the vertical one represents the prime meridian. Junpei looked up at the ceiling. There was a great circle cut in it, perhaps for a skylight or a glass dome, but it had been filled with a gargantuan metal plate. The metal looked very solid. Anything short of an explosive charge was unlikely to damage it. There were several windows along both sides of the ship, or at least there had been. They too were covered with metal plates. In other words, we're trapped. All the exits go nowhere. Junpei was not happy. The girl with pink hair spoke up. Well, I'm sure they go somewhere, we just can't open them. Then the mountain spoke. You don't know that. For all we know, they just open into walls, or take us in circles. The prince did not agree. No, I'm sure they go somewhere. Otherwise, what point would there be? And we can open them. Well, 2 of them at least. You mean the numbered doors? All eyes turned toward the doors with numbers on them. The atmosphere in the room grew tense. Hey, wait a minute. I think I said this earlier, but I don't think we should do that. The dancer moved in front of the doors as if to block them. We'd have to be crazy to open these doors. If we do that, we're just doing exactly what Zero wants us to do. Suddenly, everyone began to speak at once. I agree. I don't. That's a terrible idea. We should keep going. We should stay here. We don't have any other way to open any of these doors. We should just wait. Someone's bound to come find us. We don't have time for that. In 8.5 hours, this ship is gonna sink. The clamor of voices made it next to impossible to determine who was saying what. Their arguments grew more and more intense until people are shouting and screaming at one another. Junpei had remained silent, but at last he could take no more. Hey! Shut up! They fell silent and all eyes turned to Junpei. He felt each stare burning into him, but he refused to flinch. Before we try and decide where we're going to go, there's something else we ought to do. What's that? We need to exchange information. We don't know anything about each other. I want to know who you guys are. Who you are, where you come from, why you ended up here. Don't tell me you aren't curious too. They went silent. Some of them looked the other way, or bit their lip, or crossed their arms and stared at the ceiling. But one of them spoke up. It was Akane. I agree. I think Jumpy is right. Jumpy? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about him. I just call him Jumpy. His name is Junpei. She pointed towards Junpei. We're childhood friends. We went to the same elementary school. Wait, stop. Don't tell us stuff we didn't ask you about. Zero's probably watching us right now. What are you gonna do if he's listening in? Would that be bad? Hell yeah, it would. We don't know how much that bastard knows about us. Maybe he just picked a bunch of random people to kidnap. If that is the case, then it'd be dangerous for us to let him know too much. If Zero knows who we are, he could go after our families. Maybe tell us we had him to get to us to do stuff, you know? But we still need to know what our names are. It's going to be hard to talk to each other if we don't have names. Alright, then why don't we have code names? To him, apparently, it seemed like the obvious solution. Code names? Yeah, we'll each pick something. Like, I'll be 7. 7? Why are you 7? It seems a fair question. The mountain stuck out his left arm. Because his bracelet number says 7. Oh, I get it. Yeah, it's a good idea. He smirked. Alright, I'm gonna be Santa. Any of you chumps know Japanese? No? Well, San means 3, so I'll be Santa. You know, like Santa Claus. Fits, don't you think? Then your bracelet number. Yeah, it's got a 3 on it. Good job, Grandpa. Just like the mountain had done, Silver thrust out his left hand. Sure enough, the face of his bracelet read 3. Very well then. I'll go next, shall I? My bracelet number is 1. Given that, I think Ace seems appropriate. I'll be Lotus then, as I'm sure you'll know. It has 8 petals. Which means, of course, that my bracelet number is 8. I would appreciate it if you would call me Snake. My bracelet number is 2. Since Ace has chosen cards, then I choose dice. Snake eyes, clearly. Which is particularly relevant, given that I am blind. Blind? Really? He's kept his eyes closed during their entire ordeal, which has suggested something strange, but to hear it said so casually? It was something of a surprise. Everyone seemed a little nervous at the prince's proclamation, but no one seemed to know how to react to it. There was one person, however, who didn't seem to be surprised in the least. The girl with pink hair. I want to be Clover. You know, like a 4-leaf clover. Good luck, right? Looking almost bored, she held out her left hand. The face of her bracelet showed the number 4. He'd come around to Junpei. He held out his bracelet. Alright, my number's 5, so my code name is gonna be... I have one. It's not like there's any point to it now. The dancer cut him off in mid-sentence. I mean, we all know your name already. You're Junpei. Oh. They all nodded.
Well, that fucking sucks, man. I wanted a code name too. This is bullshit. I'd be fucking Flaming Dragon.
Akane stepped forward nervously. Then you should all call me by my name too. Because, I mean, it just doesn't seem fair to Jumpy. You're thinking it's not cool for you to hide your name after you told us his? Akane fidgeted awkwardly. Junpei decided he had to do something. What's your bracelet number? It's 6. She hesitated for a moment, then held out her left hand. As she claimed, the bracelet's face showed a 6. Junpei looked at it for a moment and thought, alright then. Why don't we call you June? June? Yeah, you know, it's the 6th month of the year. So you're June. Junpei. Akane kneaded her hands and looked up at Junpei uncertain. What's with this woman? He smiled back at her, reassuringly. Are you good with that? She thought about it for a few more minutes, then seemed to come to a decision and gave Junpei a small nod. Their names decided, Junpei ran over them quickly in his head. 1 was Ace. 2 was Snake. 3 was Santa. 4 was Clover. 5 was Junpei's number. Akane was 6, and Junpei had given her the code name of June. 7 was 7. And 8 was Lotus. That meant that 8 of them, including Junpei, had revealed their bracelet numbers. But there was still one person left. He was a man with glasses and hair like a bird's nest. He hadn't said anything since they'd met on the stairs, and he didn't look like the sort of person who was inclined to conversation. His skin was pale, his breathing was heavy, and he was soaked with nervous sweat. His behavior seemed very suspicious, or perhaps simply emotionally unstable. It was difficult to tell. Whatever the case, it seemed clear that he had only a fingertip's worth of a grip on his sanity. The girl with pink hair, Clover, walked up to him slowly. She put her hands on her hips and eyed him suspiciously. What number are you? He didn't answer. His bloodshot eyes twitched from person to person and his breath came in hot pants. Hey, I'm talking to you. The man licked his dry lips with a shaking tongue and spoke with a voice like old paper. Isn't it obvious? There are 9 people here. And you know the numbers 1 through 8 are. I'm the only one left. So you're 9. Yeah. He extended a trembling arm. The bracelet did indeed say 9. I see. Clover looked at it contemptuously. What's your code name? Code name? What do you want us to call you? We all made up names, you should too. I don't need one. Why not? Because I'm not going to stay here with you. He took a shuddering breath and exhaled. Clover looked at him with something very like disgust. You've got some sort of plan? I do. Yeah, well, what's that? You sure you want to know? Alright. Let me show you. I'm gonna do this. What the fuck? By the time they realized what he was doing, it was too late to stop him. The man's body moved like a snake's. In the blink of an eye, he had slid around behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Silver Santa leapt forward toward Clover and the ninth man. He was halfway there when... Stay back! Suddenly the man's hand dove into his pocket. Oh shit! Where'd he get that from? He came back out with a knife. A pocket knife. He held it to Clover's pale, quivering neck. If you get any closer, I'll cut her open. Santa skidded to a halt. He snarled at the scrawny man with the knife and gritted his teeth. Yeah, that's right. The man's smile was neither friendly nor reassuring. Sweat poured down his neck, soaking the collar of his shirt. Clover, you alright? The Prince Snake's voice sounded oddly concerned. Yeah, I'm fine. Her voice shook, making her words even less convincing. The hell are you trying to do? I told you. This is my plan. What are you gonna do to her, you sick son of a bitch? Don't worry. I'm not gonna do anything to her. If she just does what I tell her to, I'll let her go. He started to move backwards, slowly, keeping his grip on Clover. Keeping their distance, Junpei and the others followed. Eventually, the man reached a wall. He gave a start as his back touched it, then glanced around quickly and spoke. Verify. Huh? The left. Look on your left. Do you see the device on the wall? Place your hand on the scanner panel, the round part. And what if I don't? The man's nostrils flared, and he looked like he was about to choke. Are you an idiot? What do you think? I could slit your throat right now. I'll kill you if I have to. All I need is your bracelet. Just do it. Do it now. He pressed the knife against Clover's neck, hard. Slowly she stretched her left hand out toward the device. Her back was to it. She had to feel around for a moment before she found the circular panel. It made a cold electronic noise, and on the display above her hand an asterisk appeared. So that's how it works, Junpei thought to himself. By placing one's palm on what that ninth man had called the scanner panel, the user's bracelet number would be entered into the device. Should you total the numbers on your numbered bracelets, and find the digital root to that number is equal to the number of that door, the door will open. Junpei shifted his eyes to the door itself. The number on it was 5. The ninth man seemed to know a little more about the device's operation than he should. That zero figure said that some of you would already be familiar with this game. How had he known exactly what to do? Good. Good, you're done. Next. His bloodshot eyes crept from person to person until finally, they stopped on the lion, Ace. You, right? You're the one with the number 1 bracelet, right? Yes, I am. So? Then you're next. Just verify your number like this little brat did. What are you doing? Do it! Don't you care what happens to her? Okay, just calm down. Ace held up his hands, palms out. The ninth man jerked his chin toward the device. Slowly, cautiously, Ace moved toward the device. After what seemed like an agonizing eternity, he reached it. Now verify. Ace nodded and placed his hand on the scanner panel. The device beeped again and a second asterisk appeared. Now the device and Clover had Clover and Ace's numbers. 4 and 1. 4 plus 1 equals 5. That's not how it works, fool. 3 to 5 people have to enter the door, not 2. The same as the number written on the door. But it wouldn't open just yet. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door. The door needed at least one more person. Who would that be? Get back! His voice shook, but the knife he held to Clover's throat made his words a command. Ace took 2, then 3 steps back. No, Father. More than that. Go all the way back. Slowly, Ace did what he was told. The ninth man's lips curled into a cruel, twisted smile. That was when Junpei understood his plan. Clover's 4 and Ace's 1. Added to the ninth man's 9. 4 plus 1 plus 9 equals 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. In other words... Oh god. Thank God you're also cooperative. Now I can get out of this nightmare. He pressed his own hand against the scanner panel. A third asterisk appeared on the screen. He dropped his hand to the lever on the side of the device and pulled. Well... The door opened with a heavy metallic groan. He let go of Clover. Wait! Junpei leapt toward the ninth man, but he wasn't fast enough. The man shoved Clover and hopped through the door. Okay, have a good one, guys. I'm going off ahead now. Well then, goodbye. He raised his hand and waved, a twisted smirk on his face. Then he was gone.